Hope you're having a great day as we come to you from the Citizens Bank studio on another Ricky Matthews show. Really enjoyed the string of shows that we've had recently. Hope you have as well, including a new feature with Singing River Health System, Health Talk, where we're going to weekly come in on Wednesdays. The second half of every Wednesday, we're going to talk about something related to living a healthier life. Really excited about that partnership. But yeah, it's been a series of terrific shows, and I've really enjoyed sitting here and continuing the conversations about not just celebrating the people who are working in the trenches to make this such a great place to live, work, and play, but also it's about talking to people who are raising the bar and pushing hard to make this region and Mississippi, for that matter, such a great place. And it's been an honor to be in this position. And I'm thrilled today because I have a full show with someone I think the world of, Joe Spraggins, Brigadier General retired Joe Spraggins, the man that I have referred to many times as has reinvented himself probably 100 times in his career. Could have retired 30 careers ago. Not actually that many, but the reality is he continues to give back to Mississippi, and we're thrilled to have him. Joe, how you doing, my friend?
I'm wonderful. Thank you, Ricky. How are you?
I'm doing fine. So it's great talking to you offline to see your passion for bringing people together and doing the right thing. You still enjoy what you're doing, don't you?
I do. I enjoy it very much, and I thank the Lord for the privilege of being able to do it, and I thank my Governor Reeves for allowing me to do it.
And you're humble about it. I think about the conversations that you and I have had about the leadership you provided after Hurricane Katrina, your work in the National Guard and the important role that you had there. Even your work after that in places like Haiti. But you've seen a lot, man. I mean, and now, of course, as the director for the DMR, you've been in a position to really see so much. What happens with the federal government after disasters. You've seen what works and what doesn't work. You've seen bureaucracy at its worst. You've seen bureaucracy at its best. It's got to be dynamic to you to watch what's happening in this Trump administration right now.
It is, and I don't know where things are going to pan out. Neither does anybody else at this point. And I think it's a day-to-day thing, and I think the president's doing what he thinks is right, and I'm 100% supporting him on what he does. And it's going to make some people upset because things are not going to go exactly the way they wanted it. But I think if in the long run, if they look at trying to get our government back under control, I think it'll be a very good thing.
Yeah, I've written about it, and you continue to look at the national surveys, Democrats and Republicans together. Even if some people don't like Trump, they're pretty darn supportive of what's happening right now to reduce the size of government and to do something about the bureaucracy, in spite of all the noise and the slanderous efforts against Elon Musk, who stands very strong, I might add. I mean, watching him stand strong, we're so lucky to have him in that role. People are still very supportive, man. I mean, 70+% of Americans support the efforts to get the bureaucracy under control that has snowballed over so many years. How did we get here where we're so many trillions of dollars in a budget that so many people can't fully understand or explain? It's a bad situation, isn't it?
It is, and if you listen to the State of the Union address the other day when he started at the end there talking about all the things that we're spending money on and paying people for Social Security that's older than our country. And, there's a lot of little things there that have slid under the radar and over the years. And some things that, that I'm sure that the person who put it in thought it was a good idea, to help some other country or help something for this. But is it the best way to spend America's money? And is it the best way to spend the taxpayers' money? And I think that's what they're looking at, and I think it's going to pan out. I mean, I don't think we're going to cut $5 trillion out of the budget in a day or two. No, we're going to cut money, and if you cut $400 billion this year and $400 billion next year, it doesn't take long to get it up there to start going down instead of going forward.
But yeah, I think your point is perfect. Actually, I think it may be more like 500 billion and 500 billion. I think Elon Musk and the team feel highly confident that they can reach $1 trillion goal. And I mean, I think that's one of the reasons he's standing in here. What I like about what they're doing is they're using advanced artificial intelligence to go into these old systems that don't even communicate with each other, and finding these patterns and pavements and whatever. What we'll see, I believe, is a completely new technical infrastructure that gives dashboards and scorecards and the ability to really see the systems communicating with each other. So there's flags around potential fraud. You'll see the relationship between our government and non-governmental organizations changed, I think, pretty dramatically. What will be very interesting to see is what Kash Patel and Bondi do about the layers of NGOs and the way they try to hide where some of this money is going. I think we're going to know all that. And I think it's going to take time to sort through it all and see all the layers. But in time, I think we're going to have a very clear view of how our government operated. And I think most people, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, aren't going to like it the way that I think in the early days, looking at some of these headlines, they already don't like it, what's happening with some of our tax dollars. But once they see the connection, I think it may go back to Democrats and Republicans. I think everybody understands that. But at the end of the day, we're going to clean that up, and we'll go forward in a way that makes government a lot more accountable than they have been up to this point. That has unfortunately enabled this snowballing effect to take place. So it's going to be interesting. The other thing that's going to be interesting is watching what they do with FEMA. We need wherever they land to be in a good spot. And I think it's great that they've gotten hurricane impacted areas involved in that conversation, because the last thing we knew is to is to dismantle something that we know how important it is, in the final analysis after we get hit by a storm. And man, you know that area really well, don't you?
I do, and and I know that they're looking at some things. I think that the biggest thing that they're looking at is how that they can streamline what happens after a storm, and streamline how people are given relief, and streamline what they can get. As you see in a lot of things, I mean, I know that North Carolina was a big deal with the floods and all, and how long it took to get things. FEMA is not there to be there. The first 72 hours or so, you're supposed to be taking care of yourself to a point, and we understand that. And their goal is to come in and help you after that, and be able to help you to be able to go forward. But when you're spending $59 million to pay for hotel rooms for illegal, and you're not spending it on people who need disaster relief, I think that's what they're looking at, and I hope that that's what they're looking at. And the idea is to make it work. I don't think FEMA's going away. I think FEMA will be here, and I think that Homeland Security would make sure that we have what we need. And I think Kristi Noem will do a great job in what she's doing there. So I think we're fine. I think everything's headed in a good direction.
Yeah, it's been fun kind of watching her. Who wasn't a little bit more focused on her as a governor? She did a great job of sort of putting her voice out there on the national map. But she may be small in stature, but boy, she stands tall, doesn't she? I mean, she doesn't back down from anyone.
Well, and you look at it, South Dakota's a small state, compared to population-wise or whatever. And so you think about that, it's hard. Just take Mississippi and take our governor, take Tate Reeves. Look what he's doing. He is going out there, and between him and Bill Cork and the one working in the MBA, they are doing magnificent things about how we're bringing industry into Mississippi. And we're bringing people that want to come here. And here's a little old state of Mississippi that's always been last in everything, that's nowhere near last in a lot of things now. And look at what we're doing with education. Look at other things. It's amazing.
Joe, I actually, I have spent a lot of time. In fact, I had Bill Cork on the show recently. We spent an hour together talking about the successes and, to some extent, even the approach that they're taking. I've written recently that I think there's tremendous opportunities going forward for coastal Mississippi. And Joe, you may not know the specific number. I've been really focusing on the numbers a lot lately. A specific number is that it took until 2020 to get back to the pre-Katrina peak in jobs. That's 17 years it took us to get back to that point. So we've had to fight and claw every step of the way. I think there's great opportunities for us going forward. I've written recently. I posted it on the Ricky Matthews Show Facebook page, but I've adjusted it slightly, and it will run on the SuperTalk site soon. About with the tariffs and what the president has in mind for that. I think what we're going to see is a movement of jobs back into America, and it's going to be a great opportunity for our governor and Bill Cork, the Mississippi Gulf Coast, to kind of tap into that and use our ports and our interstates. And, we're sitting in a really, really good opportunity here to see it zoom forward. I got one more comment I'll make about Mississippi's economic development successes, but I'll make it on the other side. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Joe Spraggins from the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. We're visiting with my friend Joe Spraggins. I say my friend. He is a dear friend. I mean, we've worked in the community together for a long time. And Joe, I remember when you and I were on the Small Business Committee for the Gulfport Chamber.
Yeah.
And I guess that was in the 1980s, maybe.
Early 90s, anyway.
Yeah, we go back a long way. I remember we did a best practice analysis, and one of the things that we started was business after hours and the ambassador program. Do you remember that?
I do.
And then it took off after that. It was great teamwork on our part.
We had a lot of great events.
Very good stuff. Okay, so listen, I was going to make one other comment about economic development after, not just after talking to Bill Cork, but certainly that helps because I think he's been a terrific partner leading the Mississippi Development Authority for Governor Tate Reeves. Tate Reeves put his stake in the dirt, man. He decided he's going to be known. His legacy is going to be that he's going to be an economic development governor. And you look at the numbers, even during COVID, even with COVID factored in, Mississippi will, through both of his terms, have reached records. It's amazing what's happening right now. And I agree completely that the biggest way to help Mississippi get itself off the bottom in some categories, it's hard when you got the Mississippi Delta because it's got its own unique challenges and it brings down the total. If you isolate the Mississippi Delta out of the numbers, our numbers are pretty much middle of the pack. But, again, we have the farmers and the challenges economically of the Mississippi Delta from a diversification point of view. But when you factor all that in, economic development is the quickest way for Mississippi to lift all boats. I believe that in my heart of hearts. And when you look at the kind of businesses that we're bringing in here, the kind of high-tech jobs, the kind of high-paying jobs, wow, are we on a roll.
It is. And you just think about Amazon spending the money they're going to spend in Mississippi. And then you think about the car companies, and then you get into the other technology, and especially the steel part of it. And who would have ever thought that people would be starting out at $60,000 to $90,000 a year with jobs? That was never something that was there in Mississippi before, and it's there now. And a lot of these communities are being able to reap a big benefit because of that. And, you take the Golden Triangle up there, it's just booming, and it's doing a great job up there. We got some great opportunity here in South Mississippi, and we have the luxury of having a lot of military. And that's huge in South Mississippi because it brings in. I mean, you just take Ingalls and look what it brings in. And then, of course, you got Chevron and look what it does. And then you got Bollinger. I mean, I just keep naming. I don't want to name one and leave one out.
Right, there's so many.
But you take NASA over there and what we have. You take Keesler Air Force Base, our Guard Base, and our Navy Base, our CB Base. And you just think about that and what we have here. And now we got one of the best airports. And our airport, and I'm biased, but our airport is great, and that's a great airport. And we got some great opportunity there.
You're biased because you're one of the three commissioners working with Clay Williams to make that be on the map in ways that has to work. It's a diversified airport that is serving this region so well, and the future is extremely bright when you think about that airport. Hey, just a quick point. You mentioned the Golden Triangle. Joe Max Higgins, who leads that effort, has been on this show many, many times. He is a force to be reckoned with. Anyone who underestimates Joe Max Higgins should do so at their own demise, because here's a guy who has had, he says, $1 billion project anymore for the Golden Triangle is a dime a dozen. I mean, he's focused on multi-billion-dollar projects. He goes to Harvard, Joe, every single year. to the Harvard Business School and does a case study every single year. He's kind of part of that process. 60 Minutes has done specials on Joe Max Higgins and what he's doing. It's an amazing success story. But there's a lot to learn from people like Joe Max about how we can move forward. And what he says of coastal Mississippi is that we're an 800-pound gorilla. He would die to have what we have at the table with, again, interstates and the port and quality of life and everything that goes with that. We've got a lot of, working for us.
I think Bill Lavers is doing a good job here, and I think he's trying and bringing in some stuff. I tell you what, getting that first Buc-ee's in the state of Mississippi is pretty good.
Yeah, it is. It is. That's a good one. He's been on the show, and we've talked about it. He's done a good job of keeping us up to speed on that every step of the way. Hey, so look, you mentioned military. I mentioned I have a new feature that we're going to do on the second half of every Wednesday show with Singing River Health System. It's going to be a health talk, and we're going to have a doctor or some health professional joining us for a couple of segments to talk about ways people can live sort of a healthier life and how to really practice preventive care, et cetera. The first doctor that I had was really fascinating, actually. His name is Dr. Ramon Brown, and he's a colorectal surgeon. In fact, he was in the process of doing colonoscopies when he came onto my show. He came to do the show, and then he turned around to go do some more colonoscopies. But we had a great conversation about it. But what's interesting about him is that he was born in Jamaica, and then he went to school at University of Miami, and then he went to medical school at Morehouse University. And guess where he did his internship and residency? Keesler Medical Center. And like so many people who come through Keesler, he ended up staying here. And now he's contributing in a big way, doing robotic surgery, big-time robotic surgery that's so less invasive for Singing River Health System. But, man, you hear that story repeated over and over again, people coming through CV base, through Keesler, through the National Guard, and so on, and deciding to stay here after they retire. That's a really huge success story for us, isn't it?
It is, and I want, one thing that I wish that enough of us would start talking more about is how important that medical center at Keesler is. And just one of the things right now, I mean, they were very, very dynamic to me about whenever I had the cancer issues, and they, they're having that oncology department there, and they had the top of the line of equipment and everything else. Well, now they're trying to close them. But we only have Singing River, and we have Memorial, and Memorial's working about 14, 15 hours a day just to keep up, but try to stay up with anything.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're doing a great job, don't get me wrong, and others, but there's no reason to close that.
Yeah. What are the chances that's going to happen?
Well, about 90% they're going to close the oncology department, and for no reason, because there is so much of a need for it right now in South Mississippi, and but trying to get the Department of Health to understand that, because they give the information to the Air Force, and the Air Force just needs to understand that how important this is. Yeah. Because especially with the amount of veterans that we have. Yeah. And and cancer is more prominent today than it ever has been. So yeah. And this is amazing what they can do, and for no reason. I mean, I could understand it if we had 4 or 5 here on the coast that everybody in the world could go to, and we were getting it there quickly. But they're backed up, and doing everything they can to keep their people taken care of. Yeah.
Joe, what's interesting is, and for people who may not realize this, let's talk about just a little bit. The medical center at Keesler, think of it as sort of a regional medical center for the military. Now, it will see civilians under certain scenarios. I remember in the early days, some of the neonatal care that they would provide, and there's been other scenarios like that. I remember when I was a paramedic, we brought really severe injured patients there pretty regularly, actually. And this was back many years ago, but we did. A lot of the planes that you see flying into Keesler, many times those are medical planes coming from other areas, bringing severely sick people from other regions of America. And because this is such an able medical center, it has so many important specializations that is strategically important to the military. And I mean, I probably could have said a lot more, but that's true, isn't it, Joe?
It is. It's strategically important to the military. It's also strategically important to the retirees and everybody that's coming in the area. Because, I mean, you can go from Pensacola all the way to New Orleans, and they're going to come here. A lot of them are going to come here. And it's not that much of a trip to come here. And, they get these little satellite places they can go to, but that's not doing what they need. They need these medical centers like Keesler to be able to take care of them. And they got some of the best doctors in the world. And they're right on the very tip of the technology. They know it. They do. A lot of them just came out of the school and teaching. And as you said, they're teaching a lot of interns. And, they're teaching them what to do. They're doing the internship right here. And so this is a fantastic place. And guess what else we get? Those people that are coming here doing that, they also satelliting out here with our other medical facilities and helping them. And,
yes.
They're helping them also. And we're getting that on more than one way. So it's a fantastic thing. Keesler Medical Center is important.
Yeah, one of the things that we've talked about with medical center administrators across the coast is that in order not only to keep up with the latest in terms of care, but the latest in terms of technology, because we're talking about tens of millions of dollars has to be spent on technology. You have to be able to do that to not only be on the cutting edge, but also to be able to attract the top flight doctors to our region. So all these kind of things go together. And Keesler has done that. They've continued to invest in the technology and do the kind of things they need to do to train people. And I think it's one of the great reasons why so many doctors who have retired here have decided to stay here and practice medicine. Hey, when we come back on the other side, I'll give you a chance to reply to that on the other side, but we'll continue our conversation with Joe Spraggins, the Executive Director for the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. We're visiting with Joe Spraggins, who is the Executive Director of Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. We had a good visit during the break. It's a little disappointing to hear that the oncology section of Keesler, they've got actually a close date unless somebody's able to stop that. So, but we'll move on because there's some really important stuff to talk about. The big issue in the legislature, there are a lot of always big issues, more than one for sure. But one that a lot of people are talking about is the seafood labeling bill. We've got a bill through the House that is a pretty good bill. And then the Senate passed a bill as well, but theirs is all more about putting together some sort of task force to discuss it. And those bills now will head to conference, and then we'll see where we go from there. Listen, the next 3 weeks will be fast and furious in the Mississippi legislature. That is for sure. But I think, it's good to be having this debate and discussion because, the bad news on the seafood front for coastal Mississippi has been, some people trying to sell Gulf Fresh seafood as imported seafood as Gulf Fresh seafood, and we're going to require some kind of labeling. And Joe, you've been at the tip of the spear on this, and you see that they're really working hard to try to get to some resolution, but get a bill that is actually implementable. That's something people can live with. This is easier said than done, isn't it?
It is. I mean, obviously, you look at Louisiana; they've had 4 or 5 renditions of theirs, trying to get it right. Alabama's doing a couple of renditions of theirs. The one thing we need to do is try to do it right. That's number one, and get it the right way. The idea is mainly just to get the people to know that you're either eating import or eating domestic. And there's nothing wrong with either or. I mean, obviously, I'm going to be more prejudiced toward domestic because that's what we do, and that's what our fishermen do. And as far as their livelihood, but the point is, there's nothing wrong if you serve import. It's just that we need to somehow or another label it to say that this is what's happening. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that most people, when you come to South Mississippi, and you're from some other part of the United States or the world, when you walk into a restaurant here, most of the time you're thinking you're eating something came straight out of the Gulf of Mexico. Mm-hmm. Because you think of all places, this is going to, and even, as we say, Gulf Fresh. Well, it might not be totally fresh because it might not have been caught that day because it was, frozen, but that's okay. But the point is, they believe that, and we need for people to understand that, and they need to know that that's what they're getting, and that's a market for South Mississippi and for the state of Mississippi and the Gulf of America.
Hey, listen, Joe, I'm confident that what's going to come out of this is, first of all, it's unfortunate the bad headlines, and the bad headlines have been really around the world, sadly, unfortunately. But the fact is, because of that, people are a lot more focused on it now. So we're able to have conversations. You said it just then. I've had seafood processors on the show to talk about it. There's literally no way. When you think about the seafood demand in coastal Mississippi, when you consider the restaurants and, of course, the casinos and the millions of people who are coming to this market, there's literally no way to satisfy that demand with Gulf fresh seafood. There's just no way to do that. So the fact is that imports, fine. What a great way to bridge the gap. And by the way, some and most, if not most, imported seafood is terrific. I think people are becoming more aware of that, and they just don't want to be told one thing and then served another. I think that's kind of where we are. The DNA testing sort of pointed that out. Other conversations that we've been having. I think the benefit, actually, if you look at the long road on this, where we may end up, I think where we will end up is that Gulf of America fresh seafood will be sought after and maybe even able to be sold at a premium because it has a brand in and of itself. I mean, you're having those conversations, aren't you?
I am, and and I think that is the thing. I think that we need to be able to find a way to market our product. And when I say our product, I mean, we can say Mississippi Gulf Fresh. Yes, that's fine. But we can also say Gulf Fresh or Gulf, it could say wild Gulf caught or whatever you want to put it. We can use a lot of different names that we could work with. But I think we could make a market for that. And then, and people would like it because I don't care. I mean, there's a difference. If you go get a shrimp that came out of the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America, I'm going to get over that Mexico thing in a minute, and get into Gulf of America, and you take a shrimp that came out of there, and you take a shrimp that came from Asia or somewhere else, and there is a different taste to it.
They do, yeah.
And people just want to know that, and I think you're exactly right. They're willing to pay more. And, it's just like if you, in anything that you do, you're willing to pay a little more to get something that's better. And it's just like when you look at Angus beef, do you buy Angus or do you buy some off-brand? If you want a good Angus beef, that's what you pay for.
See, I think what happens is that people become aware of this. And so like let's say they're going to make a shrimp salad. Let me just use that as an example. Mm-hmm. And they go to Walmart and they see the frozen shrimp there. And but they read the label and it says, this is a product of Vietnam. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then they have people now are consciously saying, okay, wait a minute. I heard that Galat, for example, in Biloxi is 100% domestic. Where can I find frozen Galat seafood that I know came from the Gulf of America? And by the way, there are distribution sites all across the coast of Mississippi. I think people are willing to make those decisions. They just need to be educated about that, and they'll be willing to pay a little bit more because they're getting the best that Mississippi has to offer. I think these conversations are leading us to that place where there's more awareness of it, and then people will know when they go in there that the labeling is in some way that helps them understand what they're about to be served and not misled. That's what we're trying to do, keep people from being misled. And then when it's all said and done, the negative headlines that come out of things like DNA research don't create problems for us. So we don't need that. We're the home of, the farmer seafood capital of the world. Our heritage here is based on Gulf seafood. We need to do everything in our power to conserve and preserve that, don't we?
We do. And the other thing that we have an industry that if we don't do something, we're going to lose. And that's our seafood industry as far as our fishermen. If they can't sell what they get for enough market to be able to do it, then they're going to quit doing it. I mean, if you go out and you got to catch shrimp and you go out and you're paying $5 a gallon of diesel fuel and then you turn around and getting 75 cents a pound for shrimp, they can't afford to operate that way. And so they got to have it. But if we've got Gulf food coming and it has a label that makes it better, And then we're able to move that forward, and people are looking at it. I can tell you right now that if I walked into a restaurant and it said that we serve Gulf seafood, then I would be more than proud to look at that and not even question the price of hardly at all. I'd be like, okay. Now, and that's understandable. And especially, and if you look at a lot of your high-end restaurants, people want that. That's exactly what they're coming for. Just like they're coming to buy the steak they want, they're coming to buy the seafood they want. And well, look, it's going to take care of our fishermen.
Yeah, and look, here's the thing. I mentioned this to you at the beginning of the show, but in my conversations with people like Austin Summerall from the White Pillars, let's say he wants to serve a grouper dish, but there's currently no fresh grouper available out of the Gulf of Mexico. It's just not. Mm-hmm. He could decide that he wants to get grouper, say, out of Argentina. Mm-hmm. Now, he has a commitment to Gulf Fresh Seafood, but he could. And, when I went in there, if he told me it was grouper from Argentina, I wouldn't care. I would say, well, I can't wait to taste how you're preparing that. Now, look, he's got a commitment to Gulf Fresh Seafood. He's made that very clear. But people would be very agreeable to that if you just tell us. Don't sell us grouper or perch or whatever it is out of Argentina and tell us it's Gulf seafood. We don't want that.
Yeah, well, and if you look at, the thing about the DNA testing and all, and I'm not against the DNA testing. That's not what I'm saying. I think that any way that we can prove what we're doing is one thing, but don't make it false. It come out to be false to a point of saying that if your name wasn't on the list, like, that you probably are not doing correctly. Well, that's not true. There is a lot of restaurants in South Mississippi that are serving fresh are serving domestic food that didn't get credit for that. Yeah. So, we need to do a little better job of being able to go out and say that.
No, listen, I've said that on the show, and I even posted about it. It's not fair to those restaurants that are doing it the right way, whether they're selling import or Gulf. They're being honest with their customers. It's not fair to them that if you come in and do DNA tests, and I still don't fully understand who's behind that, but I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't matter now. They're doing the testing. They say there's more rounds of it coming, 2 different types of DNA tests they're planning to use. But when you don't do a thorough analysis of them and then you list the ones that passed, by insinuation, even though you didn't test these other restaurants over here that are doing it exactly the way it's supposed to be done, by insinuation, you're saying they're not living up to it because you only listed the ones you tested. That's not fair. We have to find a better way to do that. Hey, when we come back on the other side, we're going to find out what else is happening with the Department of Marine Resources these days. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. Before we shift gears completely away from the labeling discussions that are happening in the legislature, I'm trying to reflect a little bit, Joe, on why I'm so passionate about this subject. I converted to Catholicism a year before Ann and I got married, and we got married in the late 1980s. And I married into the Bahanovich clan, and through that group, through that family and that heritage, got a chance to meet so many in the seafood industry. And of course, I go to St. Michael's, and it's full of shrimpers and processors and people who care deeply about this. But my sense, even unattached to that reality, my sense is it's the right thing to do. But when you combine an understanding of what that community has done for coastal Mississippi, what that community, how it's part of our history and so on, we've got to do everything in our power to preserve it, to help them be successful. We cannot lose that industry.
No, we cannot. And once again, more and more young people are trying to, they don't want to, it's a hard industry. It's not an easy job. Going out and being a shrimper or an oysterman or a fisherman and all is not like an easy job. Everybody thinks they get to go out in the Gulf and fish every day. No, that's a job for them, and they're working hard at it. And to try to keep these young people involved in it and keep them to a point to where that they feel like that they should do this in life, you've got to give them incentive and some type of incentive to be able to know that they're going to make a decent living doing it if they're going to do it. And so that's where our hard times are right now.
Hey, listen, I love what you guys continue to do to work with commercial oyster, the guys who are working to do aquaculture of oysters off the bottom aquaculture. But we've had some great success there, haven't we?
We have, and we got more people being involved in it. And, it's something that's just like anything else. It's going to take time to be able to build that industry up and for people to get more interested in it. And we're working hard with that. We're in the process of doing some stuff as far as on bottom leases. I still think that we need oystermen, and I think we need them out there working, and we need to we're going to have some areas for that to happen. But the on bottom is having some private industry involved. I think it's going to add more to it. So, as to how much will be there, I don't know. I don't know how much that they'll lease, and I don't know what we'll be looking at. But we still need to make sure that we keep building that industry. And I think that the oystermen are seeing now that our hard work of trying to do that is coming back.
Yeah, I'm excited to see any efforts in that regard to help kind of preserve one of the things that makes coastal Mississippi so special. Man, when you think about it, not getting the kind of direct hit that could really cripple us, or the Bonnet Carré Spillway not opening, and the effort, in fact, around the Bonnet Carré Spillway specifically to make the impact on the Mississippi Sound more part of the decision matrix. We're sitting at a pretty good place right now, man, but it's always, because of where we are, it's always, we're always one big something away from another challenge, aren't we?
We are. I mean, if there's a hurricane, or whether it's something else, a natural disaster, or if it's something that a man-made, we have things that are always there, and they were always looking at us. Now, as far as the Mississippi River, though, that the Lower Mississippi River study that the Corps is doing right now, they are looking at a primary part of their job is to see what they can do to mitigate the opening of the Bonnet Carré. So I've got to commend them for doing that, and they're doing a great job. And Chat's doing a great job with us for the state of Mississippi, representing us with it. And I think that we're getting there. I think that we're getting the little bit of recognition that we need. And let's just hope in the world that we can find a way to mitigate it in the near future.
But listen, Joe, I think when we started this, we were thinking that there were very few options. That's how we started this. That the Bonnet Carré was probably going to be it if they needed to relieve the pressure on not flooding the city of New Orleans and all the issues around that. But what we've discovered is that there actually are some mitigating things they can do. Upriver, there's also the need now to understand, which wasn't before a requirement, that the Mississippi Sound is something they've got to consider, with all that fresh, polluted water coming into this pristine, incredibly resilient Mississippi Sound, is something they got to consider. So they've really scored some big wins.
They have, and and as I said, Chad Phillips is representing the state of Mississippi on that commission, and he has done a fantastic job to make sure that they are looking at the right things. And one of the big things that they're looking at right now that the Corps thinks that they can maybe work is the old river structure. So when we have it in a time frame of, just say right now, because we know we've had record snowfalls and we've had a lot of rain up north, and it's going to come down eventually. It's all coming. 31 states feed into the Mississippi River, and all these rivers. It's coming eventually. But if they could open it instead of 30%, on an average, open it to 40% during the time whenever this heavy rainfall is coming down and moving, then that could be a big, big impact. And that's what they want to do, and that's what they're looking at.
Well, Joe, again, we could have spent the whole show talking about some of these issues, but I think we did a great job of kind of covering the waterfront. It's always good to just chat with you about, the current events and what we're seeing, and just check in with you. Thank you so much for your leadership. Keep up the good work.
Hey,
yes.
And remember,
make seafood great again. I'm expecting my hat. Don't forget.
All right.
Listen, it's been a pleasure, Joe Spraggins.
It's always a pleasure. Anytime I never be on the show, let me know.
You bet. Listen, have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.